This is the Macintosh Power PC audio-visual workstation that I put together and used to produce the Rocketman Roberts Classic Radio Show and Vintage Gold Classics. Those shows were heard on 60 stations all around the world: Luxembourg, Jamaica, Africa, India, Italy, Ireland, all over the place, and including on your station, WRSG. So the system consists of a computer and a mixer, audio mixer, Behringer mixer that runs through a USB box and feeds back into the computer. Keyboard, mouse, which is wireless, and there's a dongle on the back of the computer on one of the USB slots that controls the keyboard and the mouse. And also two monitors, planar monitors, Sennheiser microphone, very good sounding mic, and a swing arm, adjustable swing arm to hold it so that you can move it where you need it. And also there underneath the monitors, you'll see a Crown professional studio amp, 75 watts, to power the two tower speakers. You'll also get a lot of software with it, and 2,900 and some songs. My music library of oldies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s is still in there. Feel free to use that as you wish. To turn on the Macintosh, the silver button that you see on the top of the frame there, you push that button in, hold it for just a second or two, and then a little white operational light will come on right above the button. That tells you it's firing up. Down below that is a USB port with a USB dongle plugged into it. That one is for Wi-Fi. This computer doesn't have Wi-Fi built in, so you had to go this route, the Wi-Fi adapter. And what happens then is when it fires up, you'll get this screen, and that's where you will hook into your Wi-Fi. Of course, if you've got wired network capabilities, you can just plug it in the Ethernet port in the back. You can see the back of the Macintosh G5 here, and just ignore the red and white wire. That's the speaker feed. And you'll see the two monitor connections. One has an oddball. I'll show you that a little bit closer, but you can see it's the one on the right goes is an oddball connection to the back of the computer, but then runs down into the adapter that's the regular DVI connection. So you're good there, but don't lose that adapter. Also on the back, you'll see a mini plug that's the audio out of the computer back into the mixer. I'll show you that a little bit later on. And then there's a couple of USB connections there. One is for the audio going into the computer, and the other USB is for the dongle that controls the keyboard and mouse. Here's a close-up of that monitor connector. The one on the right is the monitor 1, and the one on the left is monitor 2. Down a little bit lower, you'll see the mini plug coming into the speaker out. That feeds out of the computer and back into the mixer directly on one of the other channels, channel 4 and 5, I think. And that's how you can hear the audio that's produced in the computer. Down below that is a USB port. One of those is the dongle for the keyboard and mouse, and the other one is the audio coming out of the USB box and going into the computer. So you got to make sure you have your connections and settings right on that. This mess of wires is for video, and and I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to give you the card also. You'll see that in a second. But you can still edit video without all this mess. You just can't see it on a monitor. But if you get this card running and this cable connected to the back, you can actually import video into this machine from old school stuff, like a VCR and or a DVD player. But that's all old school stuff, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But I'm going to give it to you because it goes with the machine, and somebody might be able to get it working and might have some use for it. It was a $1,000 card in its day, along with the cable. And this is the card. Up in the upper left-hand corner is where that cable goes in, and the snake then is audio out, video out, and audio in and video in, and a couple different kinds. This was before digital video, so video going in as a component signal, which was the best at the time. This is the back of the Crown amplifier, and you're going to take a line out of the Behringer mixer and into the Crown amp there, and you can see the orange and yellow wires are the inputs. And then you can see the red and white wires, which are just screwed on, that run out to the speakers left and right. The Crown amplifier is a studio amp, and you can actually rack mount it if you have a rack. Now we're going to take a look at setting up the audio on this Mac G5 PowerPC machine using a Behringer USB mixer. First of all, we'll take a line from the output of the mixer and run it over to the USB box, USB input. Then we're going to go around to the back of the machine and take the line from the USB box and plug it into any USB port on the rear or even the front of the machine. That will take all the audio from the mixer into the Macintosh computer. While we're back there, we'll plug in the mini plug to the external speaker jack, mini plug, and that will go back out to the Behringer mixer. Plug that in on line 4 or 5 or 2 or 3, whichever you prefer. Now all the audio from the computer will come back out to the Behringer mixer. So we can hear it, we're going to take 2 lines, the right and the left, from main out on the Behringer mixer over to the input on the Crown amplifier, left and right. Channel 1 is right, I think. We'll hook the speakers up by just attaching a simple bell wire or lamp cord to the wire nuts on the back of the machine. Plug the microphone into the only XLR input on the board, and that will get your mic set up. You may have to adjust the trim. The trim adjusts the input of the preamp. If it's a little low, turn it up. If it's a little high, turn the trim down till everything sounds good. Now we got to adjust the computer and make sure the settings are okay there, so we'll go across the bottom till we find System Preferences. And that's the icon, looks like a bunch of gears there. Double-click that. After you double-click it, you'll get a screen that looks like this. On the second row down, on the last icon over, is a speaker, and underneath it is Sound. That's the one you want to click on. For output, pick Line Out, Built-in Audio. Switch over to Input, and pick USB audio codec. Then you can test and see if you got everything hooked up all right by playing some music through Audacity. Looking good and sounding good. You must also, in Audacity, pick the proper settings for the output, the little speaker icon there. Pick built-in audio. For the input, the little microphone icon, pick USB codec. And then that will work for you for Audacity. Also, don't forget to plug in the Logitech dongle in the back or the front, so that the keyboard and the mouse are wirelessly connected to the Macintosh. Top secret to open the CD tray on a Macintosh G5 is to push the F12 button. F12 will open and close the CD tray on the Mac G5. Now we're going to talk about producing shows with this equipment using 2 kinds of software, Final Cut Pro and Audacity. I use Audacity to cut the voice tracks. After the voice track is recorded, I do 2 more processes on it, an AU Dynamics processor, and then I go ahead and amplify it to -2 dB. The next step is to export the audio out into an AIF or WAV file. Hiya, and welcome to the Rocket Man Roberts Classic Radio Show. Let's get started with ABBA and Knowing Me, Knowing You. And that's what it should sound like. Then we open up Final Cut Pro. This version is 6.0.6 from around 2009 or so. You might get this screen, and that's the software looking for that video card that I told you about earlier that's not in the system. Just hit continue, it'll go right past that. Now is the part where 2 screens come in handy. On the right-hand screen, you'll see the tracks for the music, the voice tracks, and the rest of the radio program. And down below, you'll see a text file with the script for the voiceovers. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Audacity voice track down below, and two dark screens. That's where the video would be if you were editing video. I put a piece of video up there in the top track. It's brown, and then if you go back over or the left-hand side, you can see the video pops up over there. That's for editing video. So you can edit video, you just can't see it on a television monitor. We open Final Cut Pro, and you can see the music on track A1 and A2, and the voice track on track A3 and A4. And I put some marks on the music, and that tells me where I want to start the voice track and have the next mark where the voice track ends, and that would be where the vocal from the song comes in. It makes it sound pretty smooth when you do it that way. Hiya, and welcome to the Rocket Man Roberts Classic Radio Show. Let's get started with ABBA and Knowing Me, Knowing You.
No more carefree laughter.
Thanks for tuning in. It's Rocket Man Roberts Classic Radio Show.
There's a fire starting in my heart.
Now, that's the way I produce it, and there certainly is no lock on that system. You reproduce it whatever way you want, and everybody has their own little tricks and their own little things that they do to make their recordings and their shows sound the best they can sound. So this is just the way I do it, and it works pretty well for me, and evidently a lot of radio stations liked it that way also. So that's how you do produce things on this Macintosh PowerPC G5 computer and the rest of the equipment. I'm going to send along a written diagram of how this system is connected up. If you have never used a Macintosh, please try it. You may like it. Are you going to run into Macs in the broadcast production field? You may and you may not. But if you're called for a job interview and they ask you if you have any experience with Macintosh computers, and you can answer, yes, I do, you'll find that the interviewer now regards you in a different and much better light.